Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we are going to be talking about a card from Edge of Eternities that has been nerfed already. This was a common that is going to be released in Edge of Eternities later this week, and today Wizards of the Coast released a statement saying that it was printed incorrectly. It's a very odd statement because they just said, hey, we're aware of an issue with this, missing some rules text, but the way it was printed, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was missing that, more that it was printed as just way too strong potentially. So this statement's just come out today, and this is definitely going to cause some issues going forward when people pick up this card and they're like, I'm going to put this into my commander deck. I'm going to put this into, my pre-release, especially pre-release, right? This is going to cause a huge amount of issues there because this card, with the way it's printed, works very, very differently to the way it actually should be. I do think it was expected, if not disappointing, because the card was insanely strong for a common, but I'll show you guys it. So this one here is Diplomatic Relations. It has 2 and a green. It's an instant, so that's important. First of all, it's an instant. It says target creature gets +1/+0 and gains vigilance until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent's controls. So there's a couple things that are very, very strong about this. It is a one-sided kind of bite spell. It's not a fight. You're not making 2 creatures fight. It is just one creature will deal its damage to another creature. However, it is specifically just any creature. It doesn't say a creature you control, which makes it very, very different to basically every other version of this that green has access to. There are some versions of this in red, for example, mostly in red. Breaking the Fellowship here, target creature and opponent controls deals damage equal to its power to another target creature that player controls. So the strong part about this is having a creature of an opponent deal damage to another creature an opponent controls, potentially wiping both of them out, wiping the weaker one of them out, if they've got Death Touch or something like that. There's a huge amount of ways to take advantage of this to essentially turn this into a big kind of kill spell, and it was going to be the strongest kill spell that green would have access to. So as I said, breaking the Fellowship, have a creature deal damage to another creature. This is also a sorcery and only available within red. Deadshot is very similar. Mutiny, very similar. These are 3 different versions of basically kind of the same spell. Having target creature and opponent controls deal damage to another target creature and opponent controls. However, as I said, the big difference here is this was within green. It was instant speed. It also provided a buff as well. There was a similar card, which is this Legolas's Quick Reflexes, which has split second, untap target creature until end of turn. It gets hexproof reach, and then whenever this becomes tapped, it deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 target creature. However, because of the fact that this gives the ability to the creature, that means that the creature's controller, so therefore your opponent, would be able to choose where that damage goes. Again, this is the big difference between this one here. You get to choose because you're the one casting this instant. You get to choose which creature that deals damage to, while this one here, if an opponent has that creature, they get to choose it. So it's quite different to this. This is the closest kind of similarity that green has. As I said, green has access to a whole bunch of bite spells, a whole bunch of fight spells as well, but they do require you to own the creature that you're targeting. Very different to this. There was other ones with red that are actually fight spells. If we kind of extend it out to, both creatures dealing damage, red has access to a whole bunch of those, but green doesn't have access to those either. So this is was going to be, it isn't, was going to be an incredibly unique spell that green would have access to, an incredibly powerful spell. In fact, it was to the point that people were saying it's essentially green's murder, right? It is the best removal spell that green has access to. This is just destroy target creature. That would essentially be what this is. It would just be destroy target creature, or even better, it could be destroy 2 target creatures that your opponents control. Even outside of it being, very strong in Commander, insanely strong in Commander, in any other environment, it was going to be very strong as well, whether you're looking at Standard, whether you're looking at limited, sealed, etc. So what was the actual statement that they made? It was this here. It was posted up on the Daily MTG. We're aware of an issue in which the card Diplomatic Relations from Edge of Eternity was printed with missing rules text that affects its functionality. The printed version reads, which is what I've said a couple of times now, target creature gets plus plus one plus blah blah blah. But the corrected rule text should have inserted in here you control. So target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains vigilance until end of turn. It deals damage to its power to target creature an opponent controls. So this is obviously, you know, very different. Still quite a decent, you know, instant, right? However, it is nowhere near to the point that this was going to be one of the best removals that Green would ever have had access to. It's really kind of, I don't know, it was expected because of quite how strong this was, but it's also kind of a little bit disappointing, obviously, because it was going to be very strong and very cool. It was also only printed as a common, which I guess also causes issues. If this was a rare or something like that, then maybe they would have kept it, because then, you know, it's rarer, it's less likely to come around. But as a common, it was going to show up a lot. Obviously, this is also going to cause a huge amount of issues at pre-releases and everything. This is a big nerf to a card that to fix that issue, whether it was intended to have that text or not. We cannot know. We'd have to be at Wizards to know if it was meant to have that you control text or not. And as I said, you know, at pre-release is going to cause issues. Anyone building a commander deck after opening some Edge of Eternities, it may cause issues for them as well, because not everyone should have to, and not everyone will, rely on a third-party app or having, you know, access to the cards to look up exactly how each new card, especially new cards. If this was printed, you know, 20 years ago or something like that, and people were looking it up now, I would understand. But a new card with a new set getting printed is crazy. We also don't know if this is going to be fixed in subsequent print runs of Edge of Eternities, because they never do like just one print run, right? This is going to be, you know, printed for the next little bit. You know, there's going to be Edge of Eternities box that's coming out for a bit. If you didn't get access to one, you know, there's going to be a few different waves of it. Will it be reprinted better, like, you know, fixed in subsequent printings? We'll have to see. It was a crazy strong card, and without this fix, it obviously was going to be insane, but seeing the kind of fix, it makes sense as to what it was originally intended to be. Yeah, good luck. Good luck at your, you know, pre-release explaining to people, if they try and play this card against you, hey, that's not how this card works. Let me bring up the Scryfall Gatherer and show you, or let me bring up this article. Most, you know, LGSs are going to have this printed out, stick it on the wall or something like that during pre-release. So hopefully they do that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.